Welcome back, Truth Seekers. Zach here. Today I want to talk about September 11th, and I want to talk about it in great detail. There's a lot of videos on the web exposing the curiosities and lies about September 11th. In this video, I want to add new information to that conversation and add further evidence of the gigantic hoax that was waged against this country and the rest of the world. And as I've said since the day it happened, you're listening to someone who's never been fooled by September 11th, someone who's never bought into the official story, someone who's questioned it from the very second he saw it. And as I've always said, if we don't get to the truth of September 11th, if there is no justice for September 11th, then we'll forever live in a worse world, and it will continue to get worse. And the same types of things will continue to happen to us, and perhaps they'll become even more deadly, more repetitive. And we're starting to see that. It's the year 2015 now. September 11th will be the 14-year anniversary, and we're living in an age where we're presented with more and more hoaxes on a quickening basis. And if you can think back to September 11th, in the 90s, we were given some hoaxes leading up to it, which tied right in. The Waco siege, the OKC bombing, and even the school shooting at Columbine. At the school shooting of Columbine, they said that the boys had theories or fantasies of hijacking planes and flying them into the World Trade Center buildings in New York. If you go back and watch the original Columbine footage, the news will say that. They said it multiple times, that the boys had written in their journals that they wanted to hijack planes and fly them into the World Trade Centers. And as we all know, that ended up happening 2 years after the Columbine shooting, but not by the Columbine shooters. So anyway, we're going to get into it. We're going to look at just how the hoax was orchestrated, how much numerology and gematria is encoded, and we're going to find the same numbers in this event as we find in the events that are waged against us today, from Sandy Hook to the Boston Marathon to the events we already mentioned to so much more, including the most recent Michael Brown shooting and all the other shootings. So to start, let's go back to the year 1968. In 1968, World Trade Center construction began. 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. George W. Bush graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones. Space Odyssey 2001 came out. MLK was assassinated. RFK was assassinated. This is 1968, 33 years before September 11th, 2001. And in 1994, 7 years before 2001, this article was written after the 93 World Trade Center bombings, asking the reading audience to imagine planes being flown into the World Trade Center or another type of a terrorist attack, and the towers come falling to the ground. This article is asking the audience to imagine that in 1994, how awful it could be. At the same time, it's also introducing the network known as Al-Qaeda, who September 11th would be blamed on 7 years later. You would think that if in Vice magazine 7 years before the fact they could warn about all this and see it, you think they would have been able to stop it. But that's just how big of a joke it is, Truth Seeker. So let's start by looking at Flight 77. This is the flight that hit the Pentagon. The Pentagon is located on the American meridian, the 77th meridian. The Pentagon is 77 feet tall. The Pentagon is exactly 77 feet tall on the 77th meridian and hit by Flight 77. What else is curious about the Pentagon is that it's 5-sided, 5 floors, and has a 5-acre court in the middle. It sits across from the Washington Monument that is 555 feet tall, 555. When you write the word new in Pythagorean gematria, n is the fifth letter, or excuse me, n is the 14th letter, so 1 plus 4 becomes 5. E is the fifth letter, E is 5. W is the 23rd letter, 2 plus 3 becomes 5. New is a 5-5-5 sequence. And what I think these monuments are, the Pentagon and the Washington Monument, are tributes to the New World Order, which is what this country's always been about. It's really an old world order. And these 5-5-5 tributes are to that. And from the date of the attack, September 11th, 2001, to the day the Iraq War began is exactly a span of 555 days. Also, notice that they began it on March 20th, just before the spring solstice. This is a high holy day for the Satanists. And this is no accident, Truth Seeker. This is an encoding that we find in so many wars. There's so much numerology in war start and end dates. For example, the Mexican-American War ended on February 2nd, the 33rd day of the year. The word Mexico equals 33. The word Mexican equals 33. And it's not just that, Truth Seeker. It's international wars. It's not just the United States. This is the New World Order. This is how they code their stuff, even their wars. So, in addition to all this numerology for the Pentagon crash, there's also the footage. You have to think that the Pentagon is one of the most highly recorded airspaces in the world, and to date, this is the only image they have released. And the FBI has admitted that they have confiscated thousands of videotapes of the footage of this explosion, and to date, this is the only one they've ever shown. Supposedly, this is a plane crashing into the Pentagon. Coming any moment. Here it is. Boom. There it is. This is the only image they've ever released. See, True Seeker, right here you can see this little blip came on the screen, and in just a second we're going to see an explosion. Supposedly, this is a commercial aircraft. I mean, just think about it, True Seeker. This is the only image they will show. And since that's been the case, I've always asked, why is that? Why won't they give us a more clear image? If a plane hit the building and there's all these cameras everywhere, surely they can give us a better image than this. Okay. So we've discussed Flight 77 hitting the Pentagon. Let's now look at Flight 93. Flight 93. First of all, there was the 93 World Trade Center bombing. There was also this crash of Flight 93, which is said to have had 33 passengers, 7 crew, and 4 terrorists. 7 plus 4 is 11, plus 33 is 44. So that means 44 total people were on the plane, just like the word kill in gematria. K is the 11th letter. I is the 9th. L is the 12th. L is the 12th. It sums to 44. And what I love about kill is how it even has the 11-9 sequence in it. And here we are talking about September 11th. So there was just a lot of curious things about this crash. It crashed in a location with 33 gematria. It crashed in Somerset County, another location with 33 gematria. The witness that they put on TV right away was named Emma Bergen, who supposedly saw the plane crash in a Hilton hotel parking lot. Hilton has a 33 gematria, so does the name Bergen. Later, from doing this research, I would find out that many of the witnesses that day that were shown on TV, as well as the victims talked about, had 33 names, so common in hoaxes. In addition to the numerology for Flight 93, making matters even more curious is the plane crash site, which shows no evidence of a plane. So let's just watch that again. We looked at the Pentagon suspicious footage. Now let's look at Flight 93's suspicious footage.
The debris here is spread over a 3 to 4 mile radius, which has now been completely sealed off and is being treated, according to the FBI, as a crime scene. Governor Tom Ridge made some remarks earlier at a press conference. He had flown over the site. He said the emergency response here was immediate. He also said, and I don't know whether or not you all are able to see pictures of this, but this is one of those cases where the pictures really do tell the story, that sort of the most horrifying aspect of this particular crash scene is how little debris is visible. There is a large crater in the ground, and I'm hoping that you all are seeing it as I'm talking about it, but that's really all you see is a large crater in the ground and just tiny, tiny bits of debris. There's been at least one report that the investigators out there, and there are hundreds of them, as I said tonight, have found nothing larger than a phone book.
I want to get quickly to Chris Kanicki. He's a photographer with the Pittsburgh affiliate, the Fox affiliate. He was back there just a couple of minutes ago, and Chris, I've seen the pictures. It looks like there's nothing there except for a hole in the ground.
Basically, that's right. The only thing you could see from where we were was a big gouge in the earth and some broken trees. You could see some people walking around in the area, but from where we could see, there wasn't much left.
Any large pieces of debris at all?
No, there was nothing that you could distinguish that a plane had crashed there.
Smoke, fire?
Nothing. It was absolutely quiet. It was.
Did you hear that, True Seeker? Absolutely nothing that you could distinguish a plane crash there. This is the first plane crash in the history of the world that didn't leave any plane debris. Well, not counting the other 3 supposed plane crashes on the day of September 11th. But let's continue.
Actually, very quiet. Nothing going on down there. No smoke, no fire. Just a couple of people walking around. They look like part of the NTSB crew walking around looking at the pieces.
How big would you say that hole was?
From my estimates, I would guess it was probably about 20 to 15 feet long, and probably about 10 feet long, or 10 feet wide.
What could you see on the ground, if anything, other than dirt and ash? And
you couldn't see anything. You could just see dirt, ash, and people walking around.
So did you hear it? A hole 10 feet wide, 20 feet long, 15 feet deep. But no plane. Impossible, True Seeker. I mean, I don't know how anybody's ever been fooled by September 11th. And we're not even done yet. Back then, I didn't even need numerology or gematria. All I needed was my eyeballs and what they were telling on the TV. None of it made any sense. None of it made any sense. So just some more stuff. Last year, in documenting this in October, there was supposedly a fire at the Flight 93 Museum. They like to give us little stories to remind us about 9/11. Also, last year, supposedly a flag was stolen from the 9/11 museum. But just look at the names of the people used in the story. The witness for this fire, the person talking about, was named Michael Litterst. Both 33 names. I mean, they probably set this fire there to burn evidence that they needed to get rid of because it was probably another giveaway, they realized. You know what I mean? Again, the plane crashed in Somerset County. Another place with 33 gematria. When they do these hoaxes, True Seeker, they code it. This is their giveaway. Apparently nobody before me ever thought to do this, but now that I've exposed it, we all need to start doing it because this is what they're doing. It's just sad. Another tribute to 93, Muhammad Atta was the pilot of Flight 11, supposedly, the first plane to crash. And look at what floors he hit the tower on. This is from the official 9/11 timeline website. He crashed into floors 93 through 99. Of course, Thelema, the number 39, in Thelema, the occult religion, the number 93 is worshipped. It represents do what thou wilt and love. Isn't that interesting? Thelema. So just another 93 tribute in the 9/11 spectacle. So True Seeker, after September 11th, there was this tribute called the Tribute in Light. 2 giant purple beams made up of 44 lamps each, so 88 total lamps. The word purple has a gematria of 88 with simple English gematria. And what's curious is they started this on March 11th. 3/11, and the buildings went down on 9/11. In the United States history, March 11th and September 11th are very important to the World Trade Center buildings. They were first proposed by David Rockefeller on March 11th, 1961. They would be approved by the Port Authority and Governor Nelson Rockefeller. The name Rockefeller has a simple English gematria of 110. The World Trade Centers would be built 110 stories tall. Nelson Rockefeller was the 49th governor of New York. The nickname Twin Towers has a Pythagorean gematria of 49. So what I'm saying is I think these buildings were very much a tribute to the Rockefellers as well. They had a floor that matched their name gematria. They had a nickname that matched the governor Rockefeller who approved them. Also, outside of 9/11, the biggest incident in this country before 9/11 was Pearl Harbor, right? The bombing of Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Hawaii is the 50th and final state, one of three with a gematria of 33. Well, what's interesting about the bombing of Pearl Harbor is that before that event, it was a March 11th, 1941, that FDR signed the Lend-Lease Act involving the United States in World War II for the first time. What the Lend-Lease Act did was it opened up the United States seaports to Allied forces so we could supply their ships, repair their ships, allow them to dock there. It was our first entrance into the war, and we said this is who we're going to support. 6 months later, on September 11th, FDR, and this is the day the Pentagon construction started as well, September 11th, 1941. On this day, FDR said that the U.S. Navy had the right to attack Axis ships. So, Lend-Lease Act, first we're supporting other Allied Navy. Now on September 11th, now we're giving the go to attack Axis Navy. And in our history, they never tell us about this. They just tell us about Pearl Harbor and how that got us in the war. See, Truth Seeker, that's the bullshit. They're not telling us the truth. They're telling us nothing but lies. It's dishonesty. I'm sorry, but the United States was involved in the war for almost a year before Pearl Harbor even got hit. Think about that. Almost a full 9 months. It wouldn't be attacked till December 7th. And we joined the war on March 11th. And then we even gave the go to attack, become more involved in the war on September 11th. And just look at the numerology of the dates. 3/11, 9/11, what do we know about these dates? So our whole history is a fake lie retelling. What happened at Pearl Harbor, I guess, was 9 months overdue. Because when you joined the war, as far as I understand, that opened you up to attacks from the other side, which is what Pearl Harbor is said to be. An attack from the Axis forces, Japan. I don't know how you can have a surprise attack against you when you've already joined a war. You know what I mean? So when you just think about even what we're told, you should just be able to, your brain should be able to go, this doesn't make sense. I've been lied to. Yet for so many people that doesn't happen. And honestly, Truth Seeker, the reason I think that's true is because of what I've seen since I was a little kid. I remember being a little kid in a classroom from about the age 7 on and noticing how none of my peers ever rose their hands. They couldn't answer the simplest questions. I was a good athlete when I was a kid. I noticed most other kids were pretty bad at sports, not very coordinated, not very many skills. Honestly, I just feel like I live in a world of dunces, morons, idiots. Not everybody. And I feel like what happened on September 11th was just further proof that we live in a world of idiots and dunces. I didn't start thinking that on that day. I'd already thought it for over 10 years before, since I was 7 years old. I was 18 when 9/11 happened. And, for those of us who see and have been awake, I don't know how we could think anything else about the masses. I mean, you have to be really dumb to be fooled by September 11th. And obviously, as we know, the majority of people still are. So, in that little rant. One more emphasis on this, at 555 days later, we started the war. 555-foot tall Washington Monument, 5-sided, 5-floor, 5-acre court in the middle Pentagon. All this Masonic numerology, well thought out. Here was the president on 9/11, George W. Bush, born July 6, 1946. That's a date with a numerology of 33. Remember, he graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones 33 years before September 11th in 1968. Here's those Rockefellers. Show you that Rockefeller gematria. 56 Pythagorean, 110 simple English. And Yeah, those Rockefellers, they got a lot of information. If you guys ever want to come back and visit my blog, you can read these posts. There's a lot of other information here, but don't want to get too tangential. So here's the two towers that hit the World Trade Center buildings, supposedly, or excuse me, the two planes that hit the World Trade Center buildings, Flight 11 and 175. Notice that 175 has a numerology of 1 plus 7 plus 5 equals 13. So Flight 11 and 13. Think about this thing called MK Ultra. MK Ultra has a Pythagorean gematria of 33. And the letters M are 13 and K is 11. And MK Ultra has a lot to do with mind control, persuading, influencing. Think about World Trade Center destruction and the influence it had on our nation. Perhaps this was part of the MK Ultra program, and the coding, the numerology of the planes ties into that. I have a lot of posts, Truth Seeker. The 93 World Trade Center bombing to September 11th was a span of 3,119 days. Remember how I just said the towers were approved on March 11th, 3/11, and came down on September 11th, 9/11? Look at how the numbers 3/11 and 9/11 are in the number of days between the 93 World Trade Center bombing and the 2001 attack. All proof of the numerological conspiracy. It shows how well thought out all this madness is. And if you look at the names of the hijackers and pilots, it has this 33 numerology, also these multiples of 11, 22, 66. The number 39 is also of much importance. New York and Arizona are the only two states with a Pythagorean gematria of 39, just like this. Earlier I showed you that Vice magazine. Vice has a simple English gematria of 39. Of course, 39 is the flip of 93. We've been talking about a lot about 93. 93 World Trade Center bombing, Flight 93, Flight 11 hit the 93rd floor. The coding, Truth Seeker. And the coding is even in the victims and the people we see going on TV. Remember, they put out this young boy, Jeremy Glick, who supposedly his father, Jeremy Glick Sr., died in Flight 93. They had him go on Fox News where Bill O'Reilly shouted him down. Truth Seeker, even this is part of the hoax. Why? Because his testimony helps us really believe or think that planes existed. This kid going on TV saying that he thinks there was a conspiracy on 9/11, but he's also saying his dad was in the plane. So you see, trying to, attract minds such as mine, but also keep my mind thinking that planes were really part of the attack. That's how they do us. They control both sides of the debate. And this guy, Jeremy Glick, has a very Masonic name, 3133, like the ranging degrees of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Left from Logan Airport. Logan has the 22. Massachusetts is one of 3 states with a 33 name. The only 3 are Delaware, the first state, Massachusetts, the 6th state, and Hawaii, the 50th and final. Talked about the Tribute and Light already. In history, Truth Seeker, well, let's just think about the post 9/11 era. In the post 9/11 era, the Lord of the Rings movies and now the Hobbit movies have become a very big part of the entertainment. Lord of the Rings has become huge in the post 9/11 era, and I think it honestly has something to do with September 11th. The second book in that series, 11, has a numerology of 2 because 1 plus 1 is 2. The second book released November 11th, 1954. It was called The Two Towers, and it came out right after World War II. And what I think, Truth Seeker, is after World War II, these madmen, they were planning their next major war. And I think September 11th was the main seed that will eventually transition us to World War III. We've been on the path ever since. When we enter, we will most definitely think of September 11th. And here back in history, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, released on 11/11. This conspiracy of 33, Truth Seeker, it's all through our media. The New York Times, one of the oldest papers in the country, was established September 18th, 1851. Add up the numerology of this date, it has a numerology of 33. Plus, it's also in the month September. The year 51, the word conspiracy with Pythagorean gematria sums to 51. The New York Times was also one of the publications that was printing about the Holocaust long before it happened. Word that sums to 33. Another huge lie, just like 9/11. So this is how they do it. New York Times regularly puts out stories about conspiracy theorists and how it's a mental illness. How do I know this? Because people have shown them to me, even in my own family, over the years for pointing out things about September 11th. The masses who still believe the official story, people such as my sister, will say that I'm mentally ill for trying to bring truth and light to this subject. My sister honestly thinks I'm mentally ill because of what I think about September 11th. Meanwhile, she thinks because she believes the official story, she is holier than thou. And that's what's really sad about the world we live in right now, Truth Seeker, because that's true for the brain dead masses. Here's another victim. There's a website out there called Clues Forum. Clues Forum, I'm going to give them a little shout out. I don't like them a lot, but they have some good information, especially on all the fake victims on 9/11. There's more than just this guy. I'm just doing an example right here. This is somebody who supposedly died on September 11th. If you look at his name gematria, it's got all the hallmarks. The 33. His wife's name is supposedly Yesenia. I mean, how many Yesenias do you guys know out there? Yesenia, another 33 name. You just look at all the numerology in this story, it's ridiculous. And again, like I said, he's not the only one. So this is how they did us. They even gave us stories of fake victims. This guy's father still shows up in the media on Fox News and CNN for interviews. Probably MSNBC as well. As for this man, this is the guy that planned the 9/11 tribute in light, Philip K. Howard. I just want to point out that Howard's a name with 33 gematria. Goes and gives TED Talks. People listen to these people. These are sick minds right here. These are sick people. This is a guy who knows the truth about 9/11. He gets to go on TED and tell people about things they should think. A talk. 4 ways to fix a broken legal system. You think this guy gives a shit about that? No. He's part of the 9/11 plotting. Another tie-in here, just Johnny Unitas. He died on September 11th, 2002, the 1-year anniversary. Just think about his name, Johnny Unitas. We're told that September 11th united the nation. And what do they do as a sacrifice? They kill memorable football players. This is how they operate. Now here's some good stuff, Truth Seeker. Osama bin Laden, blamed for 9/11. Never found until, I don't know, 10 years, more than 10 years later. And then when they said they found him and killed him, they gave us a image of his back. All part of the hoax. Well, it's better than that. Osama bin Laden is blamed for 9/11. On that building, on that day, September 11th, 3 buildings fell. World Trade Centers 1 and 2 were 110 stories tall. And the third building that fell that day was Building 7. It fell 8 hours later in the day. Building 7 was 47 floors tall. Well, check this out. Osama bin Laden with Pythagorean gematria sums to 47. And with simple English gematria, it sums to 110, just like the name Rockefeller. And recall, these buildings were 47 floors tall and 110 stories tall. With regards to Building 7, each floor was also 47,000 square feet. Isn't it ridiculous? The tributes. If you can recall, in the wake of 9/11, they referred to Osama bin Laden. George W. Bush used to love to use the phrase. I had a t-shirt that even said this, cave dweller. I had a shirt that said cave dweller with Bush's face on it because he loved this quote. Back then, I didn't know gematria. Look at the gematria of cave dweller. 47. So they were using this term because of its numerology, its gematria. It's amazing. It is amazing. And of course, the word time also has the gematria of 47. So of course they're going to put Osama bin Laden all over. Just too perfect of a fit. Oh, True Seeker, they got us bad. They got us bad. Here, just recently on November 6th, think about the date 11/6. 116. If you flip this number upside down, it becomes 9/11. On this date, we had a guy come out named Robert O'Neill who told us that he killed Osama bin Laden. And look at his name gematria. The same numbers we keep seeing. The same numbers we keep seeing. Even his initials, RO or R33. And this news came out on a Thursday. So just think about how well thought out it is. Country, Thursday, November 6th. Like I just said, 116 is the flip of 911. Also, sometimes Osama bin Laden was referred to as Usama bin Laden with this U instead of an O. That way, his name sums to 116. See all this 116 coding, and the story came out on November 6th? So how they do us, Truth Seeker. Everything is done by the numbers. This is what I want people to wake up to. The mastermind of 9/11 said to be this guy, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Check out the name gematria. Khalid, God number 26. Sheikh, 33. Mohammed, 32. Like the America number, the word America equals 32. 31 through 33, including 32 are the ranging degrees of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. So much of this stuff, Truth Seeker. They put the numbers on all the details. I just want to point out also, Truth Seeker, that from this year's Super Bowl, February 1st to September 11th, is a span of 222 days. Why do I document that? Because September 11th was a made-for-TV event. In TV, T is the 20th letter. So in Gematria, 2 plus 0 becomes 2. V is the 22nd letter. Multiples of 11, you do not have to reduce. So V is 22. So TV even has this Gematria of 222. And remains to be seen. Possibly this year on September 11th. It's been 14 years since September 11th. Possibly we will get a big tribute. We will see. Coming 222 days after this year's Super Bowl. Of course, from September 11th to the end of the year, there's 111 days left in the year. New York sums to 111 with simple English gematria. And with English gematria, that's where you multiply the value times 6. New York sums to 666. Just a little piece of information. All right, so now what I want to do, Truth Seeker, to close out is I want to watch some of this movie from September. Some of this movie, September Clues. I love this movie because what it does is it shows the original footage from the day of the September 11th attacks. And in this footage, we're going to see a lot of curious things. We're going to see a helicopter zoom in 3 times. And right as it zooms in the 3rd time, we're going to see how a plane appears out of nowhere and strikes the tower. We're also going to watch one of the planes fly all the way through the World Trade Center. And we're going to listen to the news commentator talk about how he saw the plane fly all the way through. When in hindsight, we know this isn't possible. It is not possible for a plane to fly all the way through a steel and concrete reinforced building and emerge out the other side intact. So let's watch all this. We're going to jump right into it.
Winston, can you see? Are you on the north side there where the plane made?
Truth Seeker, I want to point out that the man on the set for 9/11 was Winston. Winston is a name with 33 gematria. In the 1984 novel, Winston is the main character. The story 1984 begins on April 4th, 4/4. The World Trade Center buildings had their grand opening on 4/4/1973, 5 years after the opening, or after the death of MLK.
Contact?
Yes, I am.
There where the plane made contact?
But I'd say the hold is, let me just get a better look right now.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd say the hold takes about, looks like 6-7 floors were taken out. And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Winston, hold on just a moment. We got an explosion.
He said 6 to 7 floors taken out. According to the story, it was floors 93 through 99. That is 7 floors, so he got that right on. We just saw the crash. That was 93 to 99.
Inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Notice how Winston said the building is exploding right now. We got people running up the street. He hasn't said anything about a plane. He said the building is exploding right now, and when you watch the footage of 9/11, you notice how giant chunks of concrete are flying out in multiple directions. You would think that the plane's force going in towards the building wouldn't cause concrete to fly out, huge chunks of concrete to fly outwards, away from the impact. That is physically impossible.
Okay.
I want to tell what's going on.
Okay. Just put Winston on pause there for just a moment.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Okay.
I want to tell what's going on.
Okay. Just put Winston on pause there for just a moment. I understand Teresa Renault is with us right now. Miss Renault, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
This is Bryant Gumbel. I'm down on 59th and 5th. Where are you?
I am in Chelsea, and we are at 8th and 16th. We are the tallest building in the area, and my window faces south, so it looks directly onto the World Trade Center. And I would say, approximately 10 minutes ago, there was a major explosion from probably, it looks like about the 80th floor. It looks like it's affected probably 4 to 8 floors. Major flames are coming out of the north side and also the east.
I mean, just look at that, True Seeker. If the plane hit one side of the building, how can there be massive holes on multiple sides? Plus, you can see that smoke is pouring out from here, and the other side of the building. I mean, it just... Like I said, from the day it happened, none of this made any sense. I've never understood how anybody's been fooled. But I am aware that almost everybody has been fooled. It's just been mind-boggling to me. It's part of what made me think we really do live in something like a Disneyland where there's a magical spell over the land that somehow corrupted everybody and made them blind. Let's continue.
Side of the building, yes.
You're over in Chelsea. Did you hear the explosion from your position?
Yes, we did. As a matter of fact, we heard it, and because I was just like standing there pretty much looking out the window, I didn't see what caused it or if there was an impact.
So you have no idea right now?
And True Seeker, I just want to point out, I mean, just look at this scar right here. Planes are made of fiberglass. They have lightweight wings. This imprint is trying to show us that, like, wing tears into the building. This would never happen. If these wings hit this steel and concrete, the laws of physics would rip off the rings, not have them tear through the building. And at the Pentagon, it was explained that the reason the hole was so small is because the lightweight wings were immediately crushed on impact and sucked into the rest of the hole. So how could it be different at the World Trade Center, where these buildings are specifically made to withstand commercial aircraft because of how tall they are? You know what I mean? Why would the impact be worse at these buildings designed for this than at the Pentagon where they're not?
Another one. Another plane just hit. Right? Oh my gosh. Another plane has just hit. It hit another building. Flew right into the middle of it. Explosion.
Yeah, if you can look this up, this is the guy who took this photo. He truly says that he never saw a plane. So for anybody out there who says, how come the witnesses all say they saw planes? That's not true. All sorts of people have said they saw no plane. Just look at that explosion, True Seeker. If the plane's going in, the explosion shouldn't be out.
As you look at the picture from our chopper now arriving at the scene, Jim Friedel in Hoboken said it appeared to bank sharply and smash directly, perhaps purposefully, into, oh my goodness,
Oh, God.
there's another one. Oh my goodness, there's another one.
It seems to be on purpose.
Oh my goodness, now it's obvious, I think, that there's a second plane just crashed into the World Trade Center. I think we have a terrorist act of proportions that we cannot begin to imagine at this juncture.
Oh, my God.
My goodness. A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center. Obviously, suicide terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. Oh my goodness.
Oh, God.
Oh my goodness. And then as we were watching the live picture here in the studio, we saw a plane crash into the other tower of the World Trade Center. And again, let's just to be sure, there it is. There it is. The plane went right through the other tower of the World Trade Center.
That is a very hard thing to watch.
Notice how he just said the plane went right through, as in it went all the way through. You're even hearing the news anchor say it in addition to the visual evidence.
Just to be sure, there it is. There it is. The plane went right through The other tower of the World Trade Center.
That is a very hard thing to watch.
To be sure, there it is. There it is. The plane went right through. Raining down as they're trying to help people.
And you have to wonder, you hear about trade number seven
Seven.
in trouble right now. And then what does that lead to?
All right, Truth Seeker. So this is a great movie if you have the time to watch it all. Lots of other valuable information there. But in total, we've already looked at a lot. We've looked at the physical improbabilities. We've looked at the numerological and gematria encoding. And we've looked at and thought about the events that have happened since. And in total, there should be no doubt in anybody's mind what a hoax this was. It's just like religion, people. That's what I've realized. I mean, the people who don't want to see are essentially religious. They've made a belief choice. They're going to believe in their country. They're going to believe in their country no matter what. No matter what. And unfortunately for these people, believing in their country means supporting anything, essentially standing for nothing. That's what patriotism's become. Cheering for your local sports teams, being a consumer, ignoring the realities of the day. So again, Truth Seeker, this is where my whole research started. This is how I found out about the significance of 33. It's what led me to uncover everything I found out about numerology and gematria. September 11th was the seed for me. The word seed has a gematria of 33. Here's Katie Couric. Couric has a gematria of 33, just like so many of our television personalities. You see her talk about a 9/11, she's one of the gatekeepers, just like all these media personalities are. When September 11th comes up, they shout down the truth seekers. And that's what has to stop. All right, until next time, Truth Seeker. Encore. I almost forgot a really important point, Truth Seeker. There was something called the Project for a New American Century. They were a right-wing think tank that formed in 1997, 4 years prior to the Bush administration taking office. And a lot of the members of that think tank, known as the Project for the New American Century, became members of the Bush administration, including Paul Wolfowitz, Richard Pearl, and others. In their group, they put out a document, and in that document, they called for something named the New Pearl Harbor. Section 5 of Rebuilding America's Defenses, this is the document written by the Project for a New American Century. In Section 5, it was entitled Creating Tomorrow's Dominant Force, including the sentence, further, the process of transformation, even if it brings revolutionary change, is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. And recall, this is written before September 11th. And September 11th became the new Pearl Harbor. Books were even written with that title. So it's called the Project for a New American Century, and it happened in 2001, the first year in the new century. But making matters more interesting, there's something called the Coptic calendar, Old World calendar, has that gematria of 66, very much related to the number 33, which 9/11 was all about. On this calendar, New Year's Day is September 11th. 9/11 is New Year's Day on the Coptic calendar. And just think about that. On New Year's Day of the Coptic calendar, we had the September 11th attacks as told by, or as I guess you could say, as forecast by the Project for a New American Century. So you see how well it really all lines up, Truth Seeker? You see how it all lines up, from the Project to a New American Century to the Coptic calendar to the war starting exactly 555 days later. All right, until next time.